Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and start this. I know it's going to be a little quiet, but like I said, just raise your hand up in front of the camera if you want to stop it, and yep, just like that, and I'll be watching your little monitor over here, and we'll talk about it, and we'll see how all this goes.
Okay.
Okay, so we were discussing a few things here this morning, and I was mentioning that I have never played IDP until this year. So I decided I was going to add an IDP league, and I was offered a chance to join the Shark Tank 2 league with Peter Gent designing just a crazy smorgasbord of insanity mixed together into one bag. Um, and I looked, I said, man, this is hyper complicated. I don't know if I have the skill set to be jumping into a league like this. I mean, I'm pretty good at the regular dynasty and pretty good at redraft. I can hold my own pretty much anywhere, but I've literally never done IDP. Like I'm gonna have to rank players and sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Um, we can run this back, but is this just you talking? Just your diary?
Yes, this is just my
Okay.
diary.
Okay.
So, and one thing I really want to comment on right now is I do miss my barber tremendously. Haven't been to a barber in quite some time, and looking at my beard, kind of how I used to have it, where it's nice and trimmed and neat,
Mhm.
and then look it over here, disheveled and wild like it is now.
Yeah,
you know,
the two things that I mentally wrote down in my mental notebook were smorgasbord question mark instead of smorgasbord.
it was
Uh,
I did say G, didn't I?
and then and then the other thing was you you seem a little apprehensive about, kind of talking about how you haven't done this before, and it's like a chink in your armor, and you quickly followed up with, I'm really experienced and really good at redraft. So
Yeah. Well, you got to talk about how good you are, or else how
you
will
got to follow
everyone
it back
know?
up. Yep. All right, let's keep going.
At the regular dynasty and pretty good at redraft. I can hold my own pretty much anywhere, but I've literally never done IDP. Like I'm gonna have to rank players and come up with my own ways of viewing these players and determine all the numbers that it'd take to research linebackers versus defensive ends and comparatively analyze cornerbacks versus safeties and analyze position scarcity and so on and so forth. And I just said, man, I just don't have it. Not this year. And then about 2 or 3 days went by, and then that league started to kind of fill up, and I got an ask from somebody else I knew in that group. So it was like, first I got an offer from, just kind of more of a blanket in a group I was in, like, hey, I know these guys are good at this stuff, so anybody in here want to join? And then I got a targeted, like, reach out straight to me, and I think that's a lot. All right.
Just tracking the progression of things here. So I mentioned, uh, some apprehension or anxiety, and then or kind of a low confidence, followed by confidence, followed by fear
Right.
when you didn't want to do it, and then 2 or 3 days passed, and then it was FOMO. So that's kind of my mental progression through your mood state
Yeah,
there.
it was one of those. Yeah, I wanted it, right? I mean, and I could tell it from this, and I can remember the moment. Like I wanted to join an IDP league, but in my mind, it was like, let's join a league with one linebacker and one defensive back. Like something super duper simple, not 11 starting positions
Yeah,
from defense.
yeah.
So that first fear was like, how am I going to build the skill set around that many new positions? It's like adding kicker and punter and deep snapper to your leagues. Like it's so many different things that you have no idea how to value. And I wanted it, but geez, am I going to be able to dedicate the amount of time that I normally dedicate to a lot smaller position pool? Is it going to translate? Am I going to be able to do it? It was a lot of fear. That's probably the biggest thing I was feeling was like, jumping into a league like this where I like to excel at what I do, and will I be able to? I have no idea.
Hmm. And there it is. So that's what it's about. It's fear of hitting the ego, or putting that chink in the armor, lasting into and taking away some of that confidence, maybe even in other areas, and questioning maybe, oh well, I'm not good at this, so am I just a redraft or a dynasty player, or am I even good at that?
Yeah, it's amazing how those things can rope back in, and you kind of heard it in what I was saying there. It was like I had to tell
Yep.
myself, well, but I'm good at these, right? Like, and was I even confident in that? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
All
Let's
right.
keep it going.
More of a blanket in a group I was in, like, hey, I know these guys are good at this stuff, so anybody in here want to join? And then I got a targeted, like, reach out straight to me, and I think that's a lot more impactful to anybody when they reach out to you directly and you say, okay, I'll do it, fine, so that's basically what it was. I was like, okay, I'll throw my money in there. It's not all that much money, and it'll be.
Oh, something in there at the end too. So I was gonna stop you for um, the kind of personalization aspect of it. So
Yep.
like someone reaching out to you maybe puts a little bit more pressure. Maybe even feels like, oh, I wasn't going to do it, but it was meant to be because someone reached out to me directly to do it. That can kind of, uh, color our way of then behaving is, if it's like, oh, I'm not going to do that, but if I'm presented the opportunity, I'm still not going to do it. And then you're presented the opportunity, and then it's like, oh, well, maybe I should do it because it actually happened, kind of thing. And then the other thing right there at the end was, well, it's not that much money, so you're kind of justifying, joining it.
Well, yeah, and I guess for me too, when somebody reaches out to you directly, um, there's that personalization of that situation where, especially the way it was done in this one, it was really like because we had some back and forths. It wasn't just like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
join this league, and then I sat on it and I waited. It was, hey, I now done IDP before, man, and I want to do an IDP. Like I expressed that back, like I really want to do one, but this one's hyper complicated. And in
Yeah.
addition to just the position things that I got to learn, I mean, you're talking about the concept of this league being everything was blind bid. So that concept on its head is probably one of the most complicated things I've ever done. And it is so much fun. It is a mind flip every week. So that's the big kicker on top of it that I don't even think I got across in this. But yeah, blind bid. So it's like every week or every time you run waivers, that's the entire draft. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything you do, it's like one waiver run. So you have no idea what people are going to bid. There's 5 copies. You have 70 people in the league. Are you going to get the guy? Did you way overpay? Did you way underpay? It's like, oh man, it's wonderful. Now that I've done it, I absolutely love it. But that weird, like I've never done that method before. Plus, throw in the fact that not only is it IDP, but they separate linebackers and defensive tackles and defensive ends and safeties and corners. And so you have a lot of positions and you have to start them all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So let's play
Keep
this.
going.
You
Mhm.
directly and you say, okay, I'll do it. Fine. So that's basically what it was. I was like, okay, I'll throw my money in there. It's not all that much money and it'll be fun. And it'll make me learn this IDP more than I ever imagined. So that was kind of my venture into deciding to.
So another kind of a second justification. So we paused it after the first one with,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's not that much money. And then the second one was, oh, well, it'll help me, build my skills in this game. And so, you know, these are reasons why it is right for me to be doing this.
Well, if I can't justify, then what else can I do, right?
You can regret.
That's true. It'll
That
be
is an option.
it'll make me learn this IDP more than I ever imagined. So that was kind of my venture into deciding to join Shark Tank 2. And I had a little time at that point in time when I found out about that. It was like December, January. Things were kind of going okay at work and fun stuff along those lines. So we've been on the work front, sometimes things get busy in the when you own your own business and you can't really control it, and so you get some 80, 90-hour weeks, and I had been done with those, and I was kind of in the middle of one of those. Hey, I'm only working 50 hours a week. It's just like, I got a full-time job worth of time I can invest somewhere, so it seemed perfect, right? So I jumped in there, and that's I guess that's my start to what Shark Tank was. I knew vaguely, it was large. So, right, I mean, I knew it was 70 people, 70 teams, right? So, okay, that I knew. Five copy league. So I'd done some copy leagues. That's not a problem. But this is five copies and 70 players. It's the biggest dynasty league I've ever been in when it comes to quantity of teams and quantity of copies. Um, but then I looked, and the rosters were just gigantic. And I couldn't even fathom, because I knew you were starting basically a true pro football team. You're starting 11 offensive players and 11 defensive players.
And I'm going to pause it. I thought it was 11 offensive players and 11 defensive players. I was
Mhm.
wrong. It was only 10 offensive players. So not like it's a huge deal, but it still was one of those things that I carried that on. I thought it was 11 offensive starters probably for like the first 4 months. Maybe one of the future diaries will figure out when I actually learned that there was only 10 starters on the offensive side.
The man who preaches knowing the format and the structure more than anyone in the world.
Oh, that set of rules, the bylaws for that, the amount of time Peter Gent spent to write those bylaws. I mean, it's almost like a novel. It's so massive. There's so many things going on.
Excuses.
Perfect.
Even fathom, because I knew you were starting basically a true pro football team. You're starting 11 offensive players and 11 defensive players. So there's the general scoop. I knew I had 65-man roster. It's like a college active roster on game day. You have 15 rookies. Like, geez, there's Debbie component to this too. What? Okay, I knew there was stuff. I'm done. That's enough. I've looked into this. I'm making the decision. I'm pulling the trigger. I'm in this thing. Let's go. Here's my money.
All right. So that's the end of my first diary. It wasn't a massive entry. Some of these things that I've done, they'll be longer, especially when you start to hear some of the fear and regret and that blind bid thing. And I'm just thinking back, maybe I didn't even know it was blind bid then, or somebody told me and I just didn't even think about it much at that time. But I didn't, I knew it was, but it was like one of those, you don't really think about like, oh yeah, blind bid. I've done that before. And then you go, well, I've never done that for like the whole league. Like I've done it. A lot of my deals have blind bid and fab, but it's only for waivers. And then when you tackle that and you add that complexity to, all right, here's 10 guys that were nominated, random bid out of random amount of money that you have. Like it is such a crazy thought. I don't know how many times I adjusted my bids, but probably if I had $1 for every time I adjusted them, I'd have a full-time job employment wage there. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a fun little series for us here, because this is kind of what's going on in therapy to a lighter degree. This is maybe an intro question that I would have asked is what brings you in here? What how did you get start in this case? How did you get started in this league? And that's kind of your answer. And everything that I paused you for, I wouldn't have paused you. I would have just kind of made a mental note and collected that evidence and started to think about how this is going to play out for you, Kyle, as my client or patient. And I'm thinking about what's going to be the thing that goes wrong, and he comes in and he needs to vent about something in this league, and he's going to talk about how he never should have joined it, and that now he's worried about the money aspect, and he's just so much better if he only has to worry about offensive players, all these things that he can kind of reverse. He found these ways. He overcame these kind of fears and anxieties to join this league by coming up with some other justifications that made it feel a little more comfortable. And then as he becomes uncomfortable going forward with not being able to manage all of it, or not playing well, or his strategy not working, then there's a chance that we'll see in these diaries that some of those things crop up, and he finds justifications for why that happened and why it didn't work. And and then there's the opportunity for him to succeed in this and build up his overwhelming confidence even more.
I
So,
definitely need to stack some confidence on top of my confidence, don't I?
right.
So that was a lot of fun, actually, just going back through there. I couldn't remember even what the first little clip was. Neither of us watched this before. The whole point was that we were going to do some of these and start to put these little diary reviews out and let a true trained professional kind of help me through this situation.
Mhm.
Because I'm filming these things sometimes at 9 a.m, or sometimes I do it at 8 o'clock at night, or 10 right before I go to bed, or something along those lines. It's just whenever mood struck me, then I said, I need to talk about this league. And I have some friends that I've met in this league, and some friends I knew prior to this that are friends in the league. So we have discussions, but it's kind of hard to just really truly talk about your feelings of the league, and you don't want to spoil the fact that you maybe don't know as much, or you need some catch up before you do this. Like you gotta, I maybe don't want to tell them that my strategies are this and that and this, but I do in these videos explain my strategies, and I talk about what I'm trying to accomplish, when it worked, when it didn't, when I pivoted. And it's going to be a lot of fun to go through these and have you and Richard pretty much rake me over the coals for my mistakes and my mania and everything else that's going on.
No, this is a skill building therapy. So we observe, we listen, we then try and analyze and process, and then turn it into something that can be beneficial for you. So I'm happy to be along with this journey. I think something interesting that I'm not sure if you can pull out from the videos, but maybe look at when they were saved, because I think that that's something. Whenever we have clients fill out daily diary homework in therapy, we have them date and timestamp it, so that if there are particular times where we're noticing that they're all their more positive entries are in the morning, and then all their ones where they're rating things highly and talking about all their stresses are at 2 in the morning. Like, that's important data for us to know. And so it'd be interesting to see the content of your entries paired with the time.
So most of them in this folder system have dates. I've got to see if there was a date created, if that actually
Well,
worked.
I mean, for the first one, it's probably all right, but going forward, I think it'll be interesting to keep that in mind and see what we've got.
Yeah. So basically the first 15 or so all say April 19th, because I moved them from one set of file source to a file source where they would back up. So they all say April 19th, but they were all before that. And I think I even mentioned in there that this video was probably made somewhere around in January or February of 2020.
Or you're the cramming client that knows that they were supposed to be doing this throughout the week and then did a bunch of them on a particular day. We see that with our technological entries. We can track some of that, and that's important data for us. So
it's important to know when they come in. No, I did all those. Yeah, I did them like Monday and Tuesday. And
I know
Wednesday.
you did them all. You just did them an hour ago.
Did them all right before this thing.
Which is still better than not doing them. But there's our memory and our reflective bias is there when we're looking back, because it's driven by our current mood state. So if they're coming in and they're not doing so great, then their week wasn't so great, likely, regardless of what actually happened, and vice versa.
That's an intriguing part of the mind that has always amazed me, is how over time the true memories are replaced by the emotion of the memory. And especially like what you just said, if your emotional state is in such a way, when you try to remember 10 different things from 10 different days, you're going to have that tint of that emotional state on the situation, and not just remember the facts. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm just going to remember these facts and it's perfect. No, you're going to get it tinted, and you're going to remember the parts that are conjured up by your current emotional state. It's fun. I love it. I'm an amateur. He's a pro. I just that stuff makes me so happy.
Well, that's therapy, though. I'm trying to make you your own therapist in the end. So trying to help you through this and, get you to a point where you don't need me.